Hi everybody, this is your narrator Ollie, and I hope you are ready to relax to our story today. Tonight we will travel back to the age of talking beasts and everyday enchantments to hear how a boy born from a peach set out for the Ogres Island and brought home treasure with the help of three most unusual friends. Chapter 1. When the world was young and full of magic. If you will believe it, there was once a time when the fairies were not so shy as they are now. They walked in bright daylight along the paths of men, and if you listened carefully, you might hear their laughter in the rustle of leaves or see their footprints in the morning dew. In those days, beasts spoke plainly to humans, and their words were wise or foolish, according to their natures, just as men's words are. Spells and enchantments lay close to the surface of things. A shining jewel might be a dragon's tear, a kettle might be a fox in disguise, and somewhere under every hill there seemed to be a door that opened upon hidden treasure. Adventures waited like ripe fruit on the bough, ready for anyone bold enough to reach out a hand. It is to that distant age that our story belongs. Chapter 2. The Old Man, the Old Woman, and the Empty House. In a quiet valley, not far from green rice fields and low hills, there lived an old man and an old woman. They were simple folk, good-hearted and hard-working, and they possessed very little besides their thatched cottage, a patch of field, and one another. Their clothes were patched and faded, but their hands were clean, and they shared whatever they had with neighbors, poorer than themselves. Yet one sorrow lay upon them: they had no children. Year after year they watched other families grow, babies carried on backs, boys chasing dragonflies, little girls learning to tie their first sashes, and a gentle ache grew in their hearts. Often in the evening, the old woman would pause in her spinning and say, "Our house is very quiet, good man," and the old man would nod, looking into the fire, for there was no small voice to break the silence. One fine morning, when the sky was clear and the breeze from the mountains smelled of pine and distant snow, the old woman said, "Husband, what are you about today?" The old man laughed softly and lifted his billhook. "I am going to the mountains to gather a bundle of sticks for our fire. And you, good wife, what will you do this morning?" "I shall go to the stream to wash the clothes," she answered. "It is washing day, and the sun is kind." So the old man took the steep path towards the hills, and the old woman set out with her washing basket towards the shining water. Chapter 3. The Peach on the Stream. The stream ran clear and merry at the edge of the fields, tumbling over stones and curling around the roots of willows. The old woman knelt on a smooth rock and began to beat and rinse the clothes, humming an old song that her mother had taught her long ago. The water felt cool on her hands. Dragonflies skimmed the surface, their delicate wings flashing blue and green. As she worked, something round and bright came drifting slowly down the current. She shaded her eyes and leaned forward. There, rocking gently on the ripples, was a peach. No ordinary fruit, but large and perfect, with rosy cheeks on both sides and a faint golden glow upon its skin. "Well, well," she exclaimed, "Fortune has remembered an old woman at last." She reached for a long split bamboo that lay nearby, hooked the peach with its forked end, and drew it carefully to the shore. Lifting it into her basket, she smiled to herself, thinking what a treat it would be for her husband after his long mourning in the mountains. When the old man came home, tired but cheerful, with a bundle of sticks strapped to his back, the good wife set the peach before him on the clean mat. "Look, good man," she said, "this is a lucky peach that I found floating on the stream. Eat it and grow strong." The old man rubbed his hands together. "Indeed, it is the finest peach I have ever seen," he said, and he reached for his knife. But before steel could touch the skin, the peach trembled. It shook, it swelled, it quaked upon the tray, as if some great heart beat within it. Suddenly, the peach split cleanly in two. There was no stone at its center. Instead, nestled where the pit should have been, sat a boy baby, plump and laughing, with eyes as bright as stars, and cheeks as rosy as the fruit that had borne him. "Mercy on us!" cried the old woman, pressing her hands together. "Mercy on us!" echoed the old man, his eyes wide with wonder. The boy tumbled out onto the mat, as lively as if he had only been waiting for the right moment. To the astonishment of the old couple, he took up one half of the peach and ate it down to the skin, and then he ate the other half as well. With every bite, he seemed to grow stronger and more handsome, until he stood before them a sturdy little fellow, laughing and unafraid. The old man's heart overflowed. "Momotaro," he cried, which means peach boy, "you are the eldest son of the peach that heaven has sent to us." "Indeed," said the old woman through her happy tears, "our child was born from a peach." From that day forward, the lonely cottage was lonely no more. Chapter 4. The Growing of Peach Boy. The old man and the old woman cherished Momotaro as if all the love they had ever longed to give had suddenly found a vessel. They wrapped him in soft cotton, fed him the best grains from their field, and told him stories by lamplight of heroes and dragons and far islands where ogres dwelt. Momotaro listened with shining eyes, and even as a small boy, his laughter was brave and his questions were bold. He grew quickly stronger and taller than other children of his age. By the time he was a youth, he could carry on his shoulders the kind of firewood bundle that had once strained the old man's back. His arms were hard with muscle, his step light, and his voice clear. Yet he was gentle as well, quick to help his neighbors, quick to defend the weak, and slow to anger. The people of the countryside watched him with admiration. "Momotaro is a fine young man," they said to one another. "He is a credit to his parents and a blessing to our village." The old couple listened to such praise with humble joy, for they knew well that their child was no ordinary son. Momotaro loved his foster parents dearly. He worked in their fields, cut their firewood, and mended their roof. And yet whenever he gazed towards the sea, a fire stirred in his heart. He had heard tales of a distant island where cruel ogres, or oni, hoarded treasure stolen from peaceful folk. The thought that such villains should go unchallenged troubled him like a stone in a shoe. Chapter 5. Millet Dumplings and a Great Resolve. One evening, when the sun had gone down behind the hills and the clouds were painted in colors of peach and gold, Momotaro came to the old woman as she ground millet at the stone mill. "Mother," he said respectfully, "I ask a favor of you. Please make for me a good store of millet dumplings, the finest in all the land." She paused, her hand still resting on the mill. "What need have you of so many dumplings, my son?" she asked. "I am setting forth on a journey," Momotaro replied, his eyes bright with quiet determination. "You might call it an adventure. I shall need the dumplings along the way." The old woman's heart gave a little leap of fear. "Tell me at once where this journey leads, Peach Boy," she said. "I go to the Ogres Island, Onigashima," answered Momotaro. "I am resolved to take back their ill-gotten treasure and bring peace to our people. Therefore, if you please, make me the dumplings as soon as may be." The old man, hearing these words, set down his tools with a trembling hand. They both loved Momotaro dearly, and were loath to see him risk himself against fierce ogres. Yet they saw in his face that the peach which had given him birth had also given him courage, and they knew that a noble heart cannot be forever kept behind a cottage door. After a long silence, the old woman nodded. "Very well, my son," she said softly. "If heaven sent you to us, perhaps heaven also sent you for this task. I shall make you millet dumplings, such as no traveler has ever tasted." So she pounded and kneaded the millet flour, adding a little of this, a little of that, until the dumplings were not only nourishing, but filled with the strength of her love. These dumplings, called kibidango, were famous in those parts, and it was said that whoever ate them felt courage rise like a warm wind in his chest. When she had finished, she placed the shining dumplings in a stout wallet. Momotaro tied the wallet to his girdle, adjusted his travel cloak, and took up a stout staff. The old man and the old woman came with him as far as the edge of the village. "Go with good fortune, Momotaro," they said. "Come back to us when your work is done." "Sayonara, dear parents," replied Momotaro, "until we meet again." So he set his face towards the sea and the distant Ogres Island. Chapter 6. 3 Companions on the Road. Momotaro had not gone very far along the road when a lively form leapt from a tree and landed lightly in his path. It was a monkey, quick-eyed and clever, its tail flicking with curiosity. "Kia, Kia," chattered the monkey, "where does a strong young man like you travel on such a fine day?" "I am Momotaro, born from a peach," said the youth with friendly dignity. "I go to the Ogres Island in search of adventure and to reclaim the treasure they have stolen." The monkey's sharp nose twitched as it glanced at the wallet hanging by his side. "And what might you be carrying in that pouch, Peach Boy?" it asked. "In this wallet are the best millet dumplings in all Japan," Momotaro replied. "My mother herself made them for my journey." The monkey's eyes shone with delight. "Share one with me," it pleaded, "and I will go with you. I am nimble and know many tricks. My paws may prove useful against ogres." Momotaro laughed, and, seeing a willing heart beneath the mischief, took out a dumpling and placed it in the monkey's eager hands. The monkey ate with great enjoyment, then scrambled onto a nearby rock and bowed deeply. "From this moment," it declared, "I am your servant and companion." So they went on together, talking as they walked. Soon they met a pheasant, bright-feathered and proud, strutting along the roadside. "Can, called the bird. "Where does Peach Boy go, and with such company?" Again Momotaro explained his mission and his destination. The pheasant, whose keen eyes had seen many things from the sky, tilted its head towards the wallet. "And what provisions sustain such a brave quest?" it inquired. "The finest millet dumplings in all Japan," Momotaro answered once more. "Give me one of these dumplings," said the pheasant, "and I shall fly at your side. From the air I can spy the ogre's stronghold and strike them from above." Momotaro gladly shared another dumpling. The pheasant swallowed it and shook its plumage. "Your cause is just," it cried, "and my wings are yours." The 3 companions journeyed on, until they came upon a sturdy dog, sitting by the roadside with bright, loyal eyes and an alert tail. "Bow, bow," barked the dog. "Momotaro, where do you travel?" "To the Ogres Island," said Peach Boy, "to fight the ogres and bring back their treasure." The dog sniffed the air and gave a hopeful look at the wallet. "And what, friend, do you carry at your belt?" "Millet dumplings, strong and good, the best in all Japan," answered Momotaro. "Share one with me," said the dog, "and I will gladly go with you. My teeth are sharp, my courage faithful, and I do not fear to stand between you and danger." Momotaro gave the dog a dumpling. The dog ate it at a gulp, wagged his tail, and trotted to Momotaro's side as if he had always belonged there. Thus Momotaro walked on with 3 devoted companions, the clever monkey, the watchful pheasant, and the loyal dog, all bound to him by kindness and the sharing of simple food. Chapter 7. The Plan for Ogre Island. After many days of travel, the road brought them at last to the sea. There they found a sturdy boat drawn up upon the beach, and with the help of his animal friends, Momotaro pushed it into the water. They rowed together, Momotaro with strong strokes, the monkey chattering encouragement, the dog braced at the prow, and the pheasant soaring overhead to guide them. The sea was restless, but not unkind. Waves slapped the sides of the boat. Gulls wheeled and cried. Far ahead, rising from the water like a dark tooth, they saw the jagged outline of an island. As they drew nearer, they could make out high cliffs, and, upon a rocky height, the walls and towers of a grim fortress. "That is Ogres Island," said the pheasant, circling down. "I see watchtowers and iron gates, and on the battlements ogres patrol with clubs and spears." Momotaro rested his oars and looked thoughtfully at the forbidding stronghold. "Now, my brothers," he said to his companions, "let us speak of how we may enter this castle, for ogres are strong and cunning, and we must use our wits as well as our strength." They drew the boat into a small hidden cove and climbed ashore behind a rock. There, Momotaro laid out his plan. "The pheasant, with his swift wings, shall fly over the castle gate and strike the ogres from above, confusing and disturbing them. The monkey, nimble and quick, shall climb the outer wall, slip through the smallest openings, and give them sharp pinches to keep them running in all directions. Meanwhile, the dog and I will break the bolts and bars of the gate. The dog will bite and hold any ogre who comes near, and I will stand beside him to fight." The monkey clapped his hands with excitement. The pheasant fluffed his feathers and gave a brave cry. The dog's tail beat the air like a drum. Each one was eager to play his part, for the millet dumplings and Momotaro's courage had bound their hearts together. Chapter 8. The Battle with the Ogres. When the sun dipped towards afternoon and the shadows grew long, Momotaro and his companions set their plan in motion. The pheasant rose high into the air, then swept down in a swift dive over the ogre's castle gate, crying, "Ken, Ken, Ken," as he beat the guards about the head with his strong wings and pecked at their eyes. The surprised ogres stumbled and shouted, lifting their heavy clubs to strike at the flashing bird, but he was always just out of reach. While they were thus distracted, the monkey scampered up the stone wall, using cracks and crevices as handholds. He wriggled through a narrow window and dropped into the courtyard, where he leapt upon the backs of the ogres, tugging their hair, scratching their ears, and pinching them sharply so that they roared with anger and confusion. At that same moment, Momotaro and the dog rushed the great gate. With a mighty heave, Momotaro broke the bolts and bars. The dog sprang through the opening, barking fiercely, "Bow! Bow! Bow!" and sank his strong teeth into the nearest ogre's leg. The courtyard was soon a whirl of color and noise. Ogres, large and fearsome with wild hair and horns upon their heads, swung their iron-studded clubs, bellowing so loudly that the walls seemed to shake. Yet their strength availed them little against the well-ordered courage of Momotaro's small band. The pheasant swooped and struck from above. The monkey darted between huge feet, tripping and tormenting the ogres. The dog clung stubbornly where he bit, dragging them down, and Momotaro himself moved among them like a bright flame, swift and unafraid. His staff met their clubs, his shouts heartened his companions. Everywhere he went, the ogres fell back. The battle raged until the sun leaned low, and the first hint of evening touched the sea. At last the ogres, bruised and bewildered, could fight no more. Some lay groaning on the ground. Others dropped their clubs and raised their hands in surrender. Those who remained alive were taken prisoner and bound with strong cords, for they were a wicked lot and could not be trusted free. Momotaro stood in a ruined courtyard, his chest rising and falling, his clothes torn, but his spirit shining. "Now, my brothers," he said, turning to his faithful companions, "let the ogres bring out the treasure they have stolen." Chapter 9. Treasure and Homecoming. The defeated ogres, muttering and scowling, obeyed. From hidden chambers within the castle, they dragged heavy chests and piled them high. When these were opened, the courtyard blazed with splendor. There were magic jewels that glowed with their own light, casting colors like sunrise upon the stone. There were caps and coats woven with secret spells that could make the wearer invisible to enemy eyes. There were heaps of gold and silver coins, carved jade and shining coral, smooth pieces of amber, polished tortoise shell, and mother of pearl that held the memory of the sea in its shimmering surface. Momotaro gazed upon these riches not with greed, but with quiet satisfaction. "These treasures were taken unjustly from good people," he said. "We shall return them where they belong, and what remains will be shared among us and the villagers who have suffered." Then he turned to his companions. "Brothers," he said kindly, "you have fought bravely and stood at my side when danger was great. Choose now from this treasure what pleases you, for you have well earned your reward." The monkey capered with delight. "Kia, Kia," he chattered. "Thank you, Lord Momotaro." He chose light jewels that flashed when he moved, for monkeys love bright things. The pheasant shook his feathers and bowed. "Ken, Ken," he cried. "My thanks, Lord Momotaro." He chose a slender chain of coral that shone red against his green neck. The dog barked joyfully, his tail wagging so hard that his whole body seemed to dance. "Bo, bow, bo," he said. "My dear Lord Momotaro, you are too generous." He chose a collar of worked silver, strong and bright, worthy of his faithful heart. When the treasure had been loaded into the ogre's own chests and set upon carts, Momotaro and his 3 companions sailed back across the sea, leaving the broken fortress behind them. The waves seemed friendlier now, and even the wind hummed a little tune of victory. In due time they reached the shore of Momotaro's homeland. Word of their return ran ahead of them like a fresh breeze. People came out from the villages to meet them, marveling at the treasure and praising the courage of Peach Boy and his animal friends. Most joyful of all were the old man and the old woman. They hurried from their cottage to embrace their foster son, tears of relief and pride shining in their eyes. Momotaro placed much of the treasure at their feet, saying simply that a house which had once been poor must be poor no longer. The rest he shared among those who had suffered from the ogre's raids, keeping only enough for himself and his 3 companions to live simply and well. From that day, peace returned to the land. Travelers walked the roads unafraid, and tales of the brave Peach Boy spread throughout Japan, told and retold on long winter evenings and bright festival days alike. Closing reflection: courage, kindness, and companions. So ends the story of Momotaro, the boy born from a peach, who set forth from a humble cottage and sailed to the Ogres Island with only a pouch of millet dumplings and the strength of his heart. He faced cruelty, not with cruelty, but with just resolve. He fought fiercely when he must, yet he shared his reward freely when victory was won. His journey teaches that true strength is not found in treasure or in fearsome weapons, but in loyalty, kindness, and the willingness to stand against wrong. A simple meal offered in friendship bound a dog, a monkey, and a pheasant to his side, and together they accomplished what none of them could have done alone. Even in an age of enchantments, it was courage and companionship that worked the greatest magic. As you return from this tale to your own life, may you remember Peach Boy's gentle beginning and brave heart. May you value those who walk beside you, however humble they may seem, and share what you have as freely as Momotaro shared his dumplings. For in every time and every land, it is such quiet acts of trust that turn lonely roads into adventures, and ordinary homes into places where wonders are born. For more stories that can help you relax, don't forget to like and subscribe.